Hello and welcome once again to Diagonal Move. My name's Neil and today is going to be the first of a series of games, a short series of games about Space Vermin from Beyond. It is the second in the Invaders from Dimension X trilogy, coming after Invaders itself but before Attack of the 50-Foot Colossi. I have featured the other games in this series before on the channel, and today it's the turn of what has been up to now the forgotten middle child of the trilogy. As you can see, there's a fair few things on the table here, and I'm mostly going to focus on the map, but just to let you know, off screen there is going to be this player aid here which details the sequence of play and a few other reference guides, as well as this event a description guide here. As you can see, this is all print and play components, but broadly speaking, the 124th Galactic Marine Battalion are attempting to stop the Vermites from doing whatever alien ants do, and they're going to do that in this particular scenario by taking these crown jewels and removing them from the map, meaning that the alien nests, which are in the corner here, and if I move the camera slightly just there, the alien nests will no longer be viable and the alien menace on the planet of Beyond will be no more. Before I do finally get going, the reason I'm doing this as a couple of videos rather than just one is that this particular game, even though it follows the same core rules as the other two games in the series in the way the Marines move and so on, the way the AI works differs from Invaders and also from Attack of the 50-Foot Colossi, but also within the game itself. Let's grab the scenario sheet. The two scenarios have quite different turn sequences for the two scenarios in this particular game, to the point where the designer Fred Manzo actually describes in the back of the rulebook that these are effectively two separate games. So we'll start with this video of this game, move on to the next game in the series in a later video, just so you can see the full scope of Space Vermin. Because the game does last a good couple of hours when you're playing it, I will play a few turns, pause, move the game on a little bit, play a few more turns and pause again, so you get a sense of the beginning, middle and end of the game rather than a full kind of 2 hours or more of me playing the game. Hopefully that'll give you a better idea. Okay, I'm going to finish setting the game up and we'll begin the game. So I've finished setting the game up. The Marines, the Space Marines if you like, that we're going to play are these blue counters. There are a bunch of different types of counters. There are basic Marine squads, there are HQ units, logistics, special ops. In the reinforcements jar here we also have scouts, heavy weapons, as well as some special weapons that our mad scientist here is going to be able to bring on at various points in the game. I won't go into detail right now as to how each of these different things work, but I'll cover that as we come across each of the different units. Facing us is the Vermite menace, and these are these little counters here. There's a bunch of different ones. Again, I won't go into every single one because there's a very distinct procedure where you'll get to meet each individual unit type in turn. But what is important to note is that down here we have nest number 1, which is where the High Queen Vermite lives, along with one of what's called the Crown Jewels, who add buffs to the aliens when they are in possession of them. And up here in the other corner of the map is the Sister Queen, who also produces aliens every turn, and can potentially have Crown Jewels in that nest as well, but they don't at the start of the game. At some point we will have a child queen who is the daughter of one of the other queens, and who will also produce new Vermites each turn if and when she's spawned. But for now she just goes into this cup with a whole bunch of other ant-like aliens. The Crown Jewels themselves are the important tokens in this game, and they will give a movement buff, a defensive buff, and a combat buff, plus, if they're in the nest, a spawn buff to the ants. And so really what we're trying to do is get them from their hexes in this kind of town area here, off the edge of the map, just there. We're going to do that using these recovery vehicles that will come on at certain intervals in the game, in turns 2, 4 and 6, and then they may, if they survive, come back on later as well to pick up and transport these crown jewels off the map. Everybody else is trying to facilitate that by simply not dying. Okay, so the way the game works, each turn you'll follow a strict procedure for the aliens before having a bit more freedom of movement as the Marines. But the first thing you'll do is you will draw wrong cup from this cup here, what's called an alien event chit or a Vermite event chit, and on it will be a bunch of different information. And the part that we're looking for in this first scenario is the part on the left hand side, which currently says alpha, an upward arrow 3, downward arrow with a 6 on, and then some text saying Vermite's molt. The 3 and the 6 in that little box there mean map alpha, which is this map, and the units, the alien units to the south of the road, so this half of the map, will move in direction 3, which according to this little compass here is this kind of direction. And then the units to the north of the map will move in direction 6, which is kind of to the northwest sort of direction. And that's what's called the Queen's preferred direction, so that's where she'll send her soldiers out to do combat. There are circumstances where these creatures will do something completely different. If they are drones, they will completely ignore that and do essentially a random flying attack. If they are ultramites or soldiers, they will follow that direction, but if they come across any of these dotted lines on the map, they will follow them. They are the scent trails, and if you look closely at the map, they do kind of all start to converge on the central town area. Okay, so once we've realised that we've found out the direction, we then do the Vermite's molt, and it says Vermite's molt 1 to 8, and what that means is on the event, each Vermite numbered between 1 and 8 will lose some health and will flip over to its disrupted side, or if it's already disrupted, it will be disappeared. Now, when you look at these things here, they have a little number, that's their identification number, and there is a certain number of each unit type with any one unit designation, so for example in this example here with the 1 to 8, we don't have numbers, all those numbers on the board, we have a few of the numbers on the board, and so these units here between 1 and 8 will all flip over to their disrupted side. Now you kind of have to keep these units in a certain order, because the way in which they stack helps with the activation. So generally speaking, you put the drones on the top, then the ultramites, and then the soldiers, because once you've successfully done the event chit element, resolve wherever it is, it can be good, it can be bad, depending on what you do. You then have to do what's called the drone phase, or the drone flocking and suicide attack phase. And any drone that you come across, which is these little flying ants with wings, you'll roll 3 dice. Those 3 dice will represent a hex on the map. You'll move to that hex. If you land on a Marine, you will attack, dying in the process, but you will nevertheless do an attack. So the first thing we'll do is roll a 5, a 6 and a 2. The only drone on the map at the moment is drone number 14, and you'd normally do this in lowest to highest number, but drone number 14 is going to fly from nest number 1 over to hex 526, which is just over here, and that's where it's going to stop. You would then progress through to any other number of drones that you have on the board, of course, but in this particular turn, that phase is finished. We move to the ultramites, and so any ultramites on the board now move, and they will move according to the direction that was set, and they will move according to their movement factor, which in both the cases on here we are is a movement factor of 2. That's that little white arrow there. And so the lowest number will go first, and number 7 will move 2 spaces towards direction number 3, which is towards the southeast. But they will follow the scent trail, and so they won't go off the map. They will eventually start moving around, but we only have 2 movement points, and each hex has a movement value or a movement cost, which in this case is 2 clear hexes, or a infestation hex and then a clear hex. That's 2, cost of 2, and the other one will also move the same. We should have moved those the other way around. 3 should have gone before 7. That's important later on, but for that particular move we won't worry about it too much. There are no other ultramites on the board, so we'll move on to the soldiers. Now the soldiers are slightly special. They will, in their low to high number order, if they can, they'll do tunnel movement, and that will mean moving to one of these hexes here, and then 3 more at the top, so just there, and there. Now if those hexes have a yellow tunnel exit hex on them, the soldier will, before it does any regular movement, it will simply move to there, and any soldier that's available will do that into any free tunnel hex. It gives them a head start on the rest of the soldiers, and then they will do their normal movement, which is the next phase. And so these units have 3 movement points each. The ones to the south will move towards the southeast. The north of the road will move to the northeast. So we'll now go 1, 2, 3. That one will stop here. This one here, though, will follow. Sorry, this one here will go northwards, and then this one will follow the scent trail. And scent trail acts kind of like roads in many ways, in that you don't have to worry too much about what terrain you're going through. This is where there would be any combat, but we are not adjacent to any marines at the moment, so we can skip the combat phase for now and move on to the spawn phase. And the queens will spawn based on that black number on the top left. In this case the High Queen spawns 3, plus an additional one because she's in a hex with the crown jewels. So that's 4 aliens in that hex with her, and 2 on the other hex, and we've actually pulled out that child queen, so the child queen will go with the sister queen, and in later turns we will draw more aliens in that hex, and just one other one, an ultramite there. That is the end of the aliens phase, or the vermites part of the game. We now move on to the marines, and the first thing you'll do is you will check for what's called gnat effects, and this is where the little parasites that live on the aliens have, whether they've infected any of your soldiers, and if they've infected your soldiers, there's a chance they may eliminate or otherwise harm your soldiers. Now we're quite lucky because we don't have any infected marines at the moment, so that's pretty good. But the way you would get infected is through destroying or eliminating an alien, and being unfortunate enough to be within almost a blast radius of parasites. And the other way you can get infected is through certain event chits that can cause these sort of black blobs, these tar pits. The aliens can swarm out of there as well, and also there's a couple of other events around the queen can send some of those little parasites out of the nests as well. But we're okay for now, don't have to worry about that just yet. Then we have the marines actions. Marine actions are pretty straightforward. You can shoot, you can move and shoot. If you have a unit with a jump pack, you can attempt a jump move. The HQs can do things like call in reinforcements. Logistics can help rally disrupted units, things like that. Pretty straightforward, but we'll go through each one as we get to them. But at the moment, there isn't a huge amount of alien activity on the board. So I think what we'll try and do first is we'll just demonstrate the shoot action. And this marine here, and marines mostly have combat factors, which is that little kind of white number there, which hopefully is in focus. There's a 4 and then a 4 there, so attack and defense basically, and that's the number of dice you roll. When you attack an enemy, you don't have to worry about the distance to the hex. You just have to make sure you can see them. Certain terrain will block that line of sight, other terrain will not, but generally it's pretty friendly as these things go. And this marine here is going to shoot up here to this hex, and we'll get to roll 4. We don't have any modifiers, I don't believe, so we'll just see if we can roll above the enemy soldier's defensive number, and the defensive number for this particular drone soldier is 2. So anything above a 2 is a hit, and depending on how many hits you get depends on what happens to the unit. And so we have rolled, I'm not sure if you can see that, but we rolled a 4, a 5, a 2 and a 1. So we have 2 hits. Normally that would mean the alien would be disrupted, but because we have a disrupted alien already thanks to that previous event chit, that alien is actually dead. It would explode, and anything within a 2 hex range would be damaged by those gnat parasite things, but there's no alien, no friendly soldiers in range, so that won't happen. And so we just simply pop the alien back into the cup when I find the right one, and it comes out again at a later date. So that unit's moved. We could then demonstrate the special operations. These guys are cool. They have a special weapon called the pants gun, which is it stands for something, I'm not entirely sure what it is. But basically what it allows you to do is you do combat slightly differently. Roll a die, check a table, and it will backfire horribly, or it will do something really quite amazing on the enemy. So we'll just do what's called the shoot and scoot action here. I'll just move 1 because I can move up to half my movement allowance and still fire, albeit at a reduced power or reduced combat factor. But we've moved 1, we've got a movement of 4, so that's less than half. We'll roll the die using the special weapon. We've rolled a 4. Now we do have to modify that 4 by 1 because we moved and shoot, or shoot and scooted as it says in the rule book. So that's a total of 3. Now a 3 on this particular character's weapon scatters the enemy. So you do this idea where you roll 3 dice again to give you a coordinate. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 5. So we'll move this soldier from where he is up to 1, 2, 5, which is just actually back by the nest. Not so bad. Next up, we could probably use this soldier to shoot at the drone to save the drone and try and cause us any problems next turn. 4 dice again because we're not moving, and we have 3 hits because it's got a combat factor of 2 or a defensive number of 2, which will not kill it, but it will flip it over to its disrupted side. Now this one here could shoot, but it would suffer from a loss of it's partially blocked the line of sight, so it'd have a combat factor reduction because it's running across the side of the trees, the bamboo forest there. So in fact let's do that anyway. Let's just do that, hopefully get rid of the drone, and we've rolled 3 hits. Drone's dead. Again, it would explode, but there's nothing within range to do any harm to. Okay, I think what we'll do now is we will move our mad scientist. Now, a mad scientist is exactly what it says on the tin. He's a scientist who is slightly quirky and can create a range of different special weapons. There's a few of them here in front of us, and these special weapons, much like the pants gun that the Spec Ops unit has, do different things, some of which are great, some of which not so much, depending on what happens. And there are 6 in total, but the first thing you need to do is to get to certain locations on the map, and in this scenario you can invent your weapons at college or at high school. And so I think for now we will move our mad scientist to the college to start thinking about creating a special weapon. Now he can move 6 because he's got a vehicle, so we go 1 into the road hex, and then half a movement point per road, so it's 1, 2, so that would be 3, and then 4 would move him into the school where we have to stop. We can start building our weapon next turn. Other thing we can do with our HQ is we can call in reinforcements. Now in order to do that we need to roll a die on a roll of a 3+, and we rolled a 2 or a 1. But on a 3+, we could call in reinforcements, which will let us bring in some other units, but we failed in that particular occasion. And so there's not a lot he can do really. Okay, I don't think I want to move this Marine, and I don't think I want to do anything with logistics, except possibly move him here, just in case we do get any damage from any later Vermite explosions or gnat attacks or anything, because one of the things that a logistics guy can do is they can help clear those parasite infections. But I think we'll stop here, move on to turn number 2. So turn number 2, we get reinforcements as the Marines. They will go off map to start with, and they have to travel across the map to get to the Crown Jewels. But first thing we need to do is draw that Vermite event chit. And this time we have drawn a gnat plague, and the movement we are looking at is direction number 1, which is directly north for the south units, and direction number 4, which is south for the northern units. But first we need to resolve that gnat plague. Basically what that means is anyone who's tainted or infected with the parasites spreads those parasites. However, we do not have anybody infested with parasites, so that event is thankfully ignored. And then we move on to the drones. We don't have any drones on the map, so we move straight on to the ultramites. We have 1 ultramite, and they're going to move directly south. They're going to go 1, 2. Ultramites down here will go north, but because they are on the centre trail, they will go along the centre trail road. And I've just realised once again that the 3 units should have gone first, not the 15, but it doesn't matter too much when there's only a handful of units on the map. When the map gets full, it gets to be more of a challenge if you do it in the wrong order. But we've now move on to the tunnelling soldiers. So soldier number 9 moves to that tunnel. There's no other tunnels for the soldiers here to go to, so they stay where they are for now. And there are no soldiers in the other nest, so we move on to the main soldier movement phase, and this soldier here will move to the north, and we'll go 1, 2, 3, and then we'll stop because we're adjacent to that mad scientist. Then soldier number 12, which is this one here, will also move north. 1, 2, 3. 24 will join them. Now the stacking is 2 for the vermites. There's, unless you're in the nest, in which case there's no limit, but it's 2 when you're not in a nest. Drones are slightly different. They can free stack with any amount of other units. Marines, it's only 1. Finally, we go south for that unit there. Combat now occurs, and the Vermites are attacking us, and we have a soldier with an attack value of 4 fighting our mad scientist who has a defensive number of 2. So anything over a 2 will cause a damage, but the scientist is at college, and because he's inside a building, that will mean with the Vermite will only roll 3. I'm just resetting these units because we moved into a new turn. So 3, anything above a 2 will score a hit, and we've scored a 2. Okay, those 2 hits on the scientist have now meant that because the scientist does not have a disrupted side, he has a regular side and a basically a weapon carrying side. 2 hits in one go will kill him. So those 2 dice have killed our mad scientist, which is somewhat unfortunate to happen so quickly. And the alien ant soldier moves into the college. Okay, that's it for combat. The queens will spawn again. Oh, I should have moved that. Should have moved that ant to there. There, even. Okay, so in the 4 units I've pulled out for the High Queen's Nest, I've got one of these tunnel exits, and so tunnel exit 3 is now open for the soldiers on their next turn. I've also pulled a couple of the drones and an ultramite. And over on nest 2 in the top, we now draw 3 counters because we have the child queen and the sister queen, and again I've drawn a drone, a soldier and a tunnel exit. So now there are additional ways out of the nest in the north as well. Okay, it's the Marines' turn, and there are no nat effects to worry about, so go on to Marine actions. Now, losing that mad scientist is a pain because the mad scientist is one of the really fun ways to get rid of or hinder yourself. Get rid of the ants and hinder yourself during the game. But let's see what we can do. So I think the first thing we'll do is we will move on this recovery vehicle while it's quite quiet down here, and they can move. It can move 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. To the outskirts. When we pick up a crown jewel, we have to pay 1 to move on to the hex, pick it up for 1, and then carry on the movement. So it takes a bit of time to get the crown jewel loaded. Then we will let's try calling in some reinforcements again. I need to roll a 3 or more. I rolled a 6, so I can choose something, and what I'll choose is the artillery gun when I find it, which is called the ant gun, which is basically an artillery version of the pants gun. But the first thing you need to do is you need to put it on the map, and then you need to essentially load it. So in order to put it on the map, I'm going to do what's called the landing procedure, which is where I pick a hex, roll a die to see if the landing has gone well. So the hex I'm going to try and land it on is 355 in the middle there. I've rolled a 1. The top of my head, that's a success, but let me just check. Yeah, we have a success, and we have landed the ant gun on the map. HQ is done. the Marine will fire at the ants with a reduced combat factor because of the building. And we've hit it twice, 3 times even, causing it to be disrupted. What you can do is you can shoot at the tunnels. So do I want to do that right now? Yes, I think I do. I will move this guy here and then I'll shoot at that tunnel. The tunnels have a defensive factor of 3 and can be eliminated in the same way that ants can, and they would come back in the same way that the ants can as well. But anyway, let's shoot then 3 dice because I moved, and I've hit it twice, which means we flip it over to its partially collapsed side. And that partial collapsed element means that it will be more difficult for the aliens to come out of that tunnel. Let's move the spec ops as well. We'll move him down 1. Actually, let's do the jump pack. So the jump pack is really cool. It allows you to jump around the map, unsurprisingly. And so what I think I'll do is I will use the jump pack move, and I will, for the purposes of demonstration, move to hex 166. We roll the die. Lots of die rolling in this game. We roll a 1, and a 1 means we have malfunctioned, which is not so good because the first thing that happens is you're disrupted. Next thing that happens is you go to a random hex, and we do the random hex 4 1 4 1 3, and so we end up all the way here, which isn't so bad, but it is a little frustrating because we wanted to be there. That guy fired. What's next? I think I want to move I think I want to try and get rid of that guy there, so I'm just going to move 1 and then shoot again with 3, reduced to 2 because of the building, and I've missed completely, so that's terrible. Okay, so I think that's the end of the Marine actions. Now, following Marine actions, there is what's called a recovery phase, and any Marine that is not next to or adjacent to a Vermite that is disrupted will automatically flip back to its normal side, which is kind of handy, really. So everybody resets, and then we do what's called the Nat purge, but we don't have anybody infected. So we won't worry about that just yet. Okay, I think what I'll do, I've played 2 turns. There are 14 turns in total in the game. So what I'll do there is I'll pause there. I'll play through the next 2 or 3 turns and come back so you can see what the game looks like in the middle of the game and show you a few more of the things that happens when the board gets busy with swarms of insects, basically. Okay, so we're a little bit further into the game, just coming up to turn number 6, so almost halfway through. We've lost one of our Marine units in addition to that recovery vehicle we lost early on, and the Vermites have almost all their counters on the board now. There's a couple left, but most of them are on the board, and they're really starting to swarm. As you can probably see on the map, we have what's called a Nat tainted counter, which is the first stage of infection of those parasites on the recovery vehicle. All Marine units, whether they are vehicles or something else, can be infected by those parasites, and we have another Marine here which is what's called infected or infested, which is the second stage of that infection. The recovery vehicle does have a crown jewel on it, which is quite good. So we're on our way to getting the first crown jewel off the map. But it's been a slow process because the Vermites have tried to thwart us at every turn. We do have a heavy weapons unit on the board now, a couple of terrible die rolls, meaning that I really wasn't able to get much more than that on the map in terms of reinforcements. But okay, let's do this turn just to see how the game progresses when the board is a lot more busy than it was at the beginning. So I've drawn the token, the event chit, and we have got something called the Ultramite Belch, which means we draw again, but we have a north and south direction for the two different units. And the Ultramite Belch event, if I just grab the event sheet, what it does is any Ultramite which is adjacent to Marine attacks with its bad breath weapon, which is the biologically enhanced long opportunity channeled heave. The attack disrupts the Marine and or eliminate it if it already disrupted. Effective Marine may not move or fire, and there are various other rules if the Marine is the artillery gun and what have you. But this is the only one affected. It was already disrupted, and looking at this chit, then the Marine is sadly eliminated as part of that event. So we have lost another Marine. Losing more than 6 Marines has a negative effect on the end game scoring in this scenario, and if you lose all the Marines, you will lose the game entirely. But we move on now to the drone flocking moment, and again, starting with the lowest number, we do that random attack or movement and attack for the drones. So starting with number 2, which is this one here, roll the 3 dice. It's a 1, 6, 2. So that one there moves to number 162, which is all the way down here. And the next one we're looking for is drone number 6. There's a chart on the player aid, and drone number 6 is here. So same with that one. Or a 4, 4, and 3, which is just there. And that's actually not so good, because that now means we cannot move the drone because it's, sorry, not the drone, we cannot move the recovery vehicle because it's adjacent to the drone, and you can't move a Marine from one hex to another that's adjacent to a Vermite. Right, then drone number 10, can't see drone number 10, there it is there, same thing. What I'm hoping to show is the attacks of the drones. That's 513. The attacks of the drones are quite random, which is good fun, but can lead to not the right thing being demonstrated without rigging it somewhat. Then we have drone number 14, which is just there. 633, so he or she actually goes back to the nest. Drone number 18 is that one there. So 6, 2, 4, ends up on the tunnel. And the last drone then, if it's on the map, is drone 22, which is actually in the nest. That's a 3, 1, 313. Aha, okay, so 313, we have got a drone suicide attack. We've landed on the Marine. What's going to happen is the drone will instantly attack with a full complement of dice, which is going to be 6. We're inside the building though, so that will reduce it down to 5. So I'll roll the first 4, which has given us 2 hits, and then roll the second sorry, the 5th die, and that's a 3, so 2 hits, which disrupts that marine. Now the drone is automatically eliminated, but we rolled a die for that gnat infestation. We rolled a 3. Now in this case, there is no harm done to the surrounding marines because you need to roll a 1 or a 2 for that to happen with the drones. Okay, so drone movement is done. Ultramites now. And the ultramites will, as before, they will move in lowest number to highest number. Now these drones here are on the crown jewels. We've spent a movement point to get to the crown jewel, and we'll spend another movement point to claim the crown jewel. So number 3 there, ultramite 3 has the crown jewel. Drone number 7, or ultramite 7, will move to that same hex, but we'll put it underneath just so that we don't get them confused. Ultramite 11 doesn't appear to be on the board, so let's look for number 15, which is here, and they're moving directly south, so it's going to go 1, 2. 19, ultramite 19, around, but both ultramites 19 and 23 are together, so they're going to go directly south to here. Okay, that special operations unit there is going to be in a bit of trouble. Finally, the soldiers. Soldiers again move using tunnel movement first, so we'll put 1 there, 1 there. That tunnel's partially collapsed. Now what that means is the tunnel is fixed, but the soldier is reduced due to the hazards of fixing a tunnel. So has its benefits. Soldier 17 moves to the first available hex, free tunnel there. Soldier 4, slightly the wrong order. They should actually go that way around because of the numerical order. And then soldier number 20 comes down here. The soldiers now do their regular movement, starting with the lowest number. The lowest number is number 1. Let's check where number 1 is. Number 1 is here. It's not going to move because it's adjacent to the marines. Number 4 is this one. We're going to move directly south 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Number 5 isn't on the board. That's in the cup still. Number 8 is also in the cup. And then we move on to the higher numbers. So number 9 goes 1, 2, 3 because they're going northwards now. 12. Well, no, here we have what's called the tar pit. Now, these units won't go through the tar. Nothing can go through the tar, but it will go around using the lowest numbered hex. So 1, 2, 3 again. And then we have 13. It's 1, 2, 3. 16 and 17. 2, 3. 17 goes directly south, so 1, 2, then moves 1 into the bamboo because it's only it's on the scent trail, so the movement is reduced. 20, 21, 24 and 25. So 20 goes 1, 2, 3. 24. so 1, 2. Can't go any further because there's 2 mites already in that hex. And then 24. It's the other way around, wasn't it? 16 should be there. 24 goes there. And then 25 comes down and along because of the tar pit. Okay, the movement in this game does take a little bit of getting used to, particularly when you've got a large volume like this. But once you get your hang of it, it's not so bad at all. But now what we have now is the chaotic combat that ensues from when the ultramites start to swarm. Okay, so the starting with the lowest number, we now need to resolve any combat, and the lowest number is number 1, and they will attack the lowest numbered hex they're adjacent to, which is this one here, and they will attack with 4 dice minus 1 because this marine is in a building, and anything over a 4 hits. So we've got 1 hit, no damage, that's good. Then we try to find the next number. We have 19 and 22 there. Number 3. Number 3 will attack. Now number 3 is in a hex with another vermite. So we'll roll the combined value of the 2 vermites plus the benefit from the crown jewel. So what that's going to mean is 10 dice in total against the HQ, which is pretty nasty. HQ has only got a defensive number of 3 and it's not in a building, so we've got 2 hits straight away. That was 4. Don't need to roll anymore. That unit is dead. After eliminating the marines, the vermites have to move into the hex that the previous marine was in, even though the vermite underneath is carrying the crown jewel, and when it would move normally it would actually want to move this way. They do attack and fight normally when carrying the crown jewels, so they will both move into that hex there and now threaten all the units surrounding them. So the next combat would be this one, the game with 2 ultramite units against special operations unit here. This time again factor of 10 deducted by 1 for the building, so let's just roll 4 dice. But the special ops have basically, you need to roll 6s, so there are much better chances of survival. And that's 8 dice with not a single 6, so last one then. No damage of any kind on that unit, which is great. Okay, so combat's done. Then we move on to the queen spawn. Now there's not enough units, vermite units in the cup, there's only 3 left. So we just do what we can rather than fulfill the full amount. And all of them will go into the High Queen's Nest, because that is the priority unit for the vermite side. And then it is the marine action. Now, the first thing we need to do is resolve any gnat effects. So those parasites infecting our units. Tainted. Don't need to do anything with tainted. That's not so bad. That's like the first stage of the infection. We're okay. The infected, though, not so good. You need to roll a die. On a 1 to 4, the unit is eliminated. And we rolled a 2, that unit is gone. And we have lost in 1 turn 3 units of marines, which isn't a great performance if we're honest. But now we need to move on to the marine actions. Okay. What I would really like to show is the effects of the artillery gun. However, that is not yet able to be powered up. What you would do is you'd have to flip it over to its powered up side, and then it would be a die roll to use its effect. and it works very similarly to the special operations gun before, but just with a somewhat better effect. So what do we do here? I think the first thing to do is to try and get this off the map, this thing here, but we are reduced by 1 movement point because of the effects of the infection, the gnat taint. So we're going to go, we can't go here because we'll be adjacent, we'll have to stop. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 1, 2 and 3 to try and go around the soldiers there. I think we will now try to kill this drone, but I don't know what with at the moment. We don't have a HQ unit, which means we cannot recall in any reinforcements. The game is going quite badly, I have to say now, after this turn. But let's try and do the best we can, shall we? So heavy weapons onto the multi-hex, and you can only fire at 1 ant at a time, and we'll fire at the one on the top there, for simplicity more than anything. Although really I think we should probably fire at the one at the bottom, even though it does have a defensive number of +1. Now, because we're adjacent, we have a few buffs here as the Marines, so we roll 6 dice for the Marines because we're adjacent. And we've rolled 4 dice. Even with the modifier, it's only got a defensive number of 3. So therefore, with that really rather wonderful roll there, we've killed that ultramite. Now, the crown jewel will stay in the hex. Next turn, assuming it survives that long, this ultramite will have to pick up that crown jewel, but for now we need to resolve the gnat explosion. So within a radius of 2, so sort of this kind of radius here, the lowest numbered Marine will potentially become infected with those gnats. And it's an ultramite, so on a roll of 1 to 4, the lowest number within a hex range of 2, which is this one, will become infected. Roll of 4, and yeah, that unit is now tainted by the gnat infestation. Logistics are going to shoot now. They don't have a very powerful weapon. They don't do any long range shooting. They're more of, as the name suggests, they're more of a support unit, but they can shoot at very close range against the ultramites, but without the benefit of that adjacency buff. And we have rolled 2 4s and a 3, which is sufficient to eliminate that disrupted drone, ultramite even, which again requires another roll at the lowest numbered again, 1 to 4, roll a 6. We're okay. Had that been another infection, we would have flipped over the counter to reveal its infested side. So we've stopped the aliens getting the crown jewel, which is a big improvement. But let's see what happens now. I think in all seriousness, we probably need to start running away. So let's move 1. Yeah, that's just 2. Let's move there out of the way. Special ops will have to move as well, but this time we will shoot the drone in the hope that we will remove the drone to allow a recovery vehicle to do something. The drone is destroyed. No, it's scattered. No, it's not. We rolled a 2. We take off a 1 because of the special ops moved. Move from here to here. That's a 1. The gun backfires, disrupts the special operations unit, which is problematic. This recovery vehicle, I think, is our last remaining unit, and we can't go directly into this hex here because of the adjacency, so we're going to have to go up for 1, 2, 3, and then 4 will have to be picking up the jewel, which is unfortunate. And our artillery can now flip to its armed side, which means next turn we should be able to fire. Okay, that's the end of the turn. We just need to do the little bits of admin, so anybody who's disrupted that's not next to a Vermite becomes wargame, and anyone who is next to a logistics unit can free themselves of their taint and also will be returned to its regular side. Okay, hopefully that's given you a sense of how Space Vermin from Beyond plays. When you get the hang of how the movement works, for the aliens particularly, it does flow quite nicely, flows quite well. Hopefully that's given you a sense though of how the chaotic elements of the original Invaders game are somewhat restrained through the use of these movement paths in this particular game, and while still retaining much of that chaoticness of the first game. I will do a follow-up video of the second scenario because that is quite a different scenario to this, as I alluded to at the beginning. Again, it won't be a full playthrough, it'll be a few turns because the game again does run to the couple of hour mark. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Please do like and subscribe and so on, and I'll see you next time.